So good afternoon, everybody. We wanted to spend a few minutes to review with you the Pro Series integration with the credit card gateway. And the first thing that I wanted to show you is as you set up the Pro Series credit card integration, the first thing you will notice is a new menu option will appear under the Accounts Receivable module. And this menu option is a single screen. It's where you define the connection with the Sage Gateway. And so you can have as many connections as you want, and basically those connections tell the gateway what your merchant account is and the merchant connection key. So this information is given to you through Sage Payment Solutions. The other things that are available on this screen besides this data is the ability to define either prior to or right after the prefix or suffix of the bank deposit ID. So by putting a C before the bank deposit ID or a D after will make those bank deposit IDs unique and allow you to identify credit card transactions versus other types of transactions. We also have the ability to turn on or off CVV recording. As you know, CVV is on the back of the credit card, and that gives you sometimes additional rates with the credit card company if you're capturing that information. I think in most situations it's now required. But anyhow, that's the turn on or off here. The other thing that is controlled here is on pre-authorization, the time limit as far as number of days that the pre-authorization is valid for, and that's user-defined, along with what's referred to as the expansion factor, which allows you to expand that pre-authorization amount up to 1% of sales. So if I set this to 10% of sales, then if I was to charge a card for $100, then up to $110 would be allowed to pass through. Obviously, this is something that you would set high enough that you could cover shipping charges and additional things as you process a credit card payment. That is all that's required inside of Pro Series to configure credit cards. And then once that's done, the other thing that happens is in the bottom right-hand corner of any computer that is installed with credit card processing, the Sage Exchange will run in the background. And so this is the product, I'll just open it up here, that actually is communicating between Sage Pro Series and the Sage Exchange for the credit cards themselves. This is a product that keeps the credit cards PCI compliant off of the workstation and into the Sage Vault. This is also where you would configure, if you're using any sort of swiping process on the workstation, the configuration of those devices. In my case, I'm not using anything like that, but if I did, I would configure that here. And that's it. Once those two things are enabled and running, then you'll notice as you go in, for instance, any place you touch cash, so if I do a payment on account, for instance, I have the ability to go in, and after I choose a customer, I have the ability to choose a new payment method for credit card. And so if I go here and change my payment method to credit card, I now have a new screen that appears. If I happen to have a credit card on file with this customer, and by the way, the credit card on file wouldn't be the credit card number itself stored in Sage Pro. It would just be a token that represents that credit card saved out in the vault. But if I had it on file, I could choose it here. If I don't have it in file, like in my case here, then I simply click on the Exchange button. It immediately launches the Exchange screen, and I can put in a credit card number. This credit card number I'm using here happens to be one that's used for testing. And I'll just change the last number to an 8 and show you what happens if the credit card is invalid. See how it doesn't validate that card. Change that back to a 1, which happens to be a valid test card, and now that should go through. I can put the name on the card. And simply say OK. At that point in time, the card is now referenced. And you'll notice that in the bank deposit ID, it put that C and that D as I defined in the setup information before and after the transaction ID. This is just a message because I'm using sample data different than the processing date. You won't get that if you're working in real time, but this is play data. The amount of the charge, and then at this point I'll just hit post credit, post open cash. It goes out, it processes the card, and remember I told it I'm capturing CVVs, so it actually asks for that information too. I can ignore that because I don't know the CVV on the test system, but at that point that credit card process is now complete. So you can see it's very well integrated right into the cash receipt screen. Really no additional work other than dealing with the credit card itself, which you'd have to do under any circumstances. They did a really nice job of integrating that. In addition, if we go over to order entry is a good way to demonstrate how you can run pre-authorizations on card. So if we're in the order entry screen and we go ahead and enter an order, one other button that's available is the pre-authorization button here. I'll go ahead and choose to pre-authorize so you can see the screen. We'll go ahead and sell some cable. We'll sell 100 of them at $1 a piece. Discount, keep it simple. I'm selling at a bargain today, and obviously I don't have it on hand yet at that bargain price, but I'll continue on. When I hit, I'll actually put in shipping charges there too, and I'll set that at $10. When I hit save here, notice the charge here is for $110. We're seeing that same screen as we saw before, but notice below we now have a pre-authorization capturing the sales order number, the date, and the dollar amount. I can go out to my exchange, and now I have a pre-authorization on the order. This is another one of those dating issues we're going to deal with in the sample company. And again, it's asking for the CVV. That's it. So at this point, that order has now been pre-authorized. When you go in to do your shipping, you'll choose the shipping, today's date. Going to ask you about shipping charges, $10, that's fine. I'll go ahead and invoice the shipment, and now we have a new screen for post authorization. So if I want to, I can skip the payment and settle this transaction later. But if I want to go ahead and charge a credit card now, I'd hit post authorization. It's going to pull up a reference, place for a reference field, the amount of the order, which is what I have to pre-authorize for, and then I can process that order. If I was to try to process $200 here, which would be above the threshold limit, it wouldn't allow that amount to go through. But at this point, I can hit save, and it'll go ahead and process the credit card at that time. It's really that simple. So they've given us both integration for pre-authorization, post-authorization during order entry, and the ability to enter cash receipts on customers' accounts. We also have the ability, a couple other quick screens that basically do the same function just from some other places, that if for some reason we just need to do a credit card pre-authorization for maybe a deposit and we don't have an order yet, you can establish a pre-authorization here under the customer maintenance screen. Once the credit card module is active, this is where you can store credit cards for customers. Again, it's not actually storing the card on the account, it's storing a token of the card. But if I go here and hit the exchange, it's going to go out and pre-authorize the card. Once you pre-authorize the card, you also have the ability to establish defaults as the default card. Again, capture the name information and close the door. Notice the customer ID, AED1. Now if I go in, enter cash receipts, payment on account, when I choose credit card now, because I set that as the default, I now have the ability to use this pre-authorized card, or I can go and do a custom. So what the pre-authorization simply does is it accepts the card on file with the token, and you go on your way. Same transaction you just went through, just that I didn't have to go out to the exchange twice, once to confirm it's a valid card and then once to process the card. So that's it. In a nutshell, that's the integration between the credit card processing and Sage Payment Solutions. Thank you very much.